Hey everyone, Tim Schofield here, and it's time to do a full review on LG's latest flagship, the G6, and it is a very sleek looking device. I've had a good amount of hands-on time with this phone, and I do want to make note that in the US, the price of it is $650 for the 32 gigabyte model, so a little surprising the base model isn't 64 gigs. However, they do offer that micro SD card slot for expandable storage. Also worth noting that now that the G6 is out, you might want to take a look at Glide.com for the G5. They've got some good deals right now going on. I'll link to Glide.com down below. But anyways, let's go ahead and get into the LG G6 full review. First things first, I'd like to talk about design of the LG G6, and this is somewhere where they have excelled. And as you can see, I did add my new favorite slick wrap, the honeycomb slick wrap, to my G6. I'll link to it down below if you're interested. Definitely a nice addition to protect it and add a little bit of style. Anyways, let's go ahead and talk about design. So first of all, you do have a 5.7 inch display to give you an idea of that size. However, it feels like a smaller device. It does not feel like a 5.7 inch device in your hand. It's very comfortable. The corners are nice and round. They aren't sharp at all. On the back of the device, you have dual 13 megapixel cameras. More on that in a second. You have a power button along with a fingerprint scanner. Down on the bottom is your mono speaker, USB Type-C slot, along with a microphone as well. On the right side is where that SIM card and micro SD card slot is. Up at the top, a nice headphone jack, another microphone as well. And then on the left side are your volume rockers, and they are a little soft, but I have gotten used to them and I actually do kind of like them. Soft pressing, they're not very clicky is actually what I mean. Now in regards to that mono speaker down at the bottom, I would say sound quality is pretty average and volume is average as well. And I think a lot of that is attributed to the IP68 rating of this device. So it is water resistant and dust resistant, which is great because if you accidentally drop it in water, you can feel actually pretty secure. I've actually used it in the rain. That's one way I like it a lot is when I use it out in the rain. I don't really have to worry about it getting too wet or ports getting soaked or anything like that. So a nice little addition to the G6. Now, next up, I'd like to talk about that power button, which also acts as the fingerprint scanner. And the fingerprint scanner is lightning quick. So let's go ahead and set it down. Unlocks it right away. You do not need to press the power button to light up the screen. You can just set your finger on it and it unlocks it very, very quickly. I also want to make a note that it's kind of difficult to actually press the button with your finger that you've registered to get to your lock screen, your notifications. So they have defaulted to an option to double tap the screen, which is just fine with me. I do like that, and double tap to sleep as well on your home screen. I also want to add a little pro tip. When you're in an app and you want to go ahead and shut the screen off, you can just double tap on the status bar up at the top and it's going to turn it off. So you don't even need to use the power button at all to turn the display on and off. Next up, I'd like to talk about that 5.7 inch 1440p IPS LCD display. Now I do prefer AMOLED displays. However, this is a very, very nice looking LCD display. Also note those rounded corners. So LG was actually one of the first manufacturers to have those. The S8 is going to have them as well when it does launch. G6 has an 18:9 aspect ratio, and they do give you an option to rescale apps to your liking. So if you go into settings, display, app scaling, and you can customize it on a per app basis, which is pretty nice. So if you go into a specific app, you have compatibility 16:9, 16.79, and then full screen 18:9 as well. And it gives you a little preview of what's going to happen, of course, with those on-screen buttons and when in full screen mode as well. Of course, it does run Android 7.0 Nougat out of the box, so you can change the display size, and I find that minimizing it to the bottom actually gives you more screen real estate to see more things on one display. That's just my personal preference. And they do have a comfort view, which I do like, and I'm glad they included. However, they do not have a timer on it, so you can't turn it on and off at a specific time during the day. A little bit of a bummer that that isn't an option. The G6 is also Dolby Vision and HDR10 compliant. So if you do have an HDR video, the quality is going to be fantastic. And the screen is great. The colors do pop. Outside, it gets bright enough. Viewing angles are very good as well. I do have one complaint about the display, and it's actually one of the first times I've noticed this, and that's actually when I use the phone in auto brightness mode, which I always do. So if I have auto brightness mode on, for some reason, it's just a little bit too dim for me in some situations. And I find that when I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh man, I wish it was a little bit brighter. I have auto brightness on, I have to uncheck it and make it a little bit brighter. So I don't know what they did with the tweaking of their auto brightness, but it seems like I wish they had it bumped up just slightly more than it's at right now. The G6 has a 3300 milliamp hour embedded battery along with Quick Charge 3.0. It charges very quick at that USB Type-C slot. It also has wireless charging, and for those of you that have asked in the past, do not worry, wireless charging works just fine when you have a slick wrap on the device. In terms of screen on time on the G6, I've been pretty happy with the battery life. You'll see here 4 hours and 3 minutes screen on time. That's just about the worst day I have had. You'll see here 2 hours and 46 minutes, but that was at 50% battery. Make note of that. Moving along, I have 4 hours and 50 minutes in a day. That was probably one of the best days. 4 hours, 16 minutes. I'd say about the average is about 4 hours and 35 minutes screen on time. So definitely above average and just about gets me through the day. And if it didn't and I used a very heavy day, I could just plug it in and it charges very quickly. Next up are those dual 13 megapixel cameras on the back. And I'm very happy it does have a dual camera due to the wide angle mode that you do have the option of. To show that off, you'll see here, you have a tree right here, and then 3 trees. If you tap on the one with 3, it activates that wide angle mode. And no, it doesn't lose any quality whatsoever. It just adds to the amount of items in your viewfinder. So as you can see here, it's way more zoomed in here. Zoom out, and you can add a lot more. This is great when taking pictures out of buildings, maybe at a ball game, a bunch of various options. I'll show you a couple examples in a second. The camera app's fairly simple on the left side. You do have a nice pro mode. Jumping into settings, there's also a way to utilize that extra space due to that 18:9 aspect ratio, and that's with the camera roll. For camera roll, photo size was changed to 18:9, so it does change that specific one. And then, of course, when you take pictures, it's going to go ahead and load up that camera roll on the side. But of course, you do have to have that specific screen aspect ratio, at least photo aspect ratio, if you'd like to have that camera roll. And overall, I've been very happy with the photo quality in this device. You really can't go wrong with this camera. It's definitely one of the best out there right now. Here's a picture of Times Square at the S8 event. Looks really good outside, especially in good lighting scenarios. Here's one where it was very cloudy out, very dark, and it actually shows off the wide angle mode in terms of, here's it close up. At least I'm at Central Park in New York, and then here is further away. So you see how much more that it adds to the picture, just taking it with that wide angle option. I'd like to talk about some performance, and I do want to make a note that here's a good example of where that aspect ratio comes in, where you can customize it, and it gives you a little button while you're in the app where you can switch it to full screen mode if you'd like to, and you see it's going to go ahead and reload the app. And it lets you know that, hey, it might not work, it's stretching things out. But it seems like in most cases, most apps work just fine and when you switch them to full screen mode. So if you'd like to utilize all that screen space, of course you can switch it back if you do run into any issues. Now the G6 has a Snapdragon 821, which isn't the latest Snapdragon processor actually. However, I have found that performance on this device has been just fine. Really running through any task, and I have not run into any issues whatsoever. If you go ahead and do some multitasking real quick, let's swipe through, maybe load up the calculator, do a quick calculation divided by this equals, let's go ahead and go to our recent apps once more, maybe swap back to the Play Store, load through, go ahead and swipe through, and then I want to go ahead and jump into Reddit very quickly, maybe load up a picture, minimize it, go home. Let's snap a quick picture as well with the camera. Okay, and I found that multitasking is fine. It does have 4 gigabytes of RAM. And let's go back to Alto's Adventure, and you'll see it just paused it, goes right back to where we were at. I can just go ahead and hit resume and pick up where I left off. And of course, with compatibility mode, I'm doing it in full screen as well. So overall, I have found performance really is just fine unless you really need the latest processor, which the S8 will have. I find the Snapdragon 821 really does the trick in terms of speed and performance. The G6 runs Android 7.0 Nougat right out of the box, so we go ahead and go to About Phone, Software Info, Android 7.0. So now with Nougat, of course, you get your multi-window option. So you see here, if I want to go ahead and tap this icon, or I'm sorry, you can press and hold the recent apps to activate your multi-window. We can go ahead and select another multi-window compatible app. So if I jump into settings, cannot open in a multi-window. So I selected the wrong app, or you can press that icon. That's an option right there. There you go. So you have a couple apps open at once. A nice little Nougat feature. You can close out of it very easily as well. Now I do want to make note, here is the home launcher. Horizontal pagination pages all around. You can actually customize it out of the box. I believe they gave you an option, but you might have to go into settings and go ahead and go to home screen and choose instead of just home and app drawer. If you do want an app drawer right out of the box. Also, there's a couple other options and customization options you have. You can add a smart bulletin if you'd like to. Change your screen swipe effect. Oops, didn't actually mean to back out of that. Icon shape. So it does add rounded square, but you can go back to the original if you'd like to. And then, of course, home screen looping as well. And very nice little addition. They do have theming options. So you can go to theme. They have some pre-downloaded ones in the theme store, but you can actually download them specifically with the Smart World app. So LG Smart World, it's going to go ahead and load up. I find that loading times on the LG Smart World app is a little bit slow, but they have a ton of different ones. So maybe you want Go Field because the Masters is going on right now. That could be an option right there. But they do have a bunch of different ones and ways that you can customize your G6. Overall, LG hasn't made their OS too intrusive. If I go ahead and jump into settings, they have some custom settings such as smart ones in terms of if you're at home, it turns on specific things. I use when earphones are plugged in, I open Google Play Music. They have a couple of other ones as well. Scrolling down, that's pretty much it. They have some shortcut keys, so when your screen is off, you can double press the volume down rocker, and doing that activates the camera. So that's very easy. It takes a little bit to get used to, but it is very simple and a nice option. And then, of course, volume up twice, you can make a quick note. And then you can go ahead and press check. You can save it to your gallery or a quick memo, and you'd be good to go, and you can go ahead and be on your way. So very quick, nice little addition. You can't customize these shortcuts at all. You can just kind of turn them on and off if you like. LG has also added an always-on display that you can customize. You can have an analog, digital, or your signature as well. You can have it time out and also make it be a little bit brighter. So let's turn that on for the sake of this video. And you'll see here is that always on display. So it lets you know what your notifications are. It will make a larger icon when you get a notification and show you the time and date as well. So nice little addition there. And then also in display, you can customize your home touch buttons. You can change the color from black to white in the background, and then also your button combination. So if you don't like, I actually customize the back button to be on the right side because I use the back button the most, and I use the phone with my right hand the most. You can customize the order. You can also add Q slide, capture plus, and notification pull down as well. You can't have all of them, I'm sorry. You can only have up to 5 down at the bottom. That's pretty much everything I want to talk about in terms of software. Here's your quick settings as well, including a nice little flashlight, your battery saver, all that good stuff. And then, of course, you have screen sharing and file sharing options down at the bottom. Okay, so just want to give some final thoughts on the LG G6. I really do like the design. The screen is gorgeous as well with those rounded corners. I also do like that they've added the IP68 rating for water and dust resistance as well. Just a nice addition that every flagship should have at the moment. Performance has been really good so far as well, and their take on Android isn't too intrusive. They've added some nice little additions to the OS as well. So overall, I'd say the LG G6 is a go for me. I do really like it. I've been enjoying using it as my daily driver as well. And that's really about it. So hopefully you enjoyed this review. If you did, click that thumbs up. You can subscribe to me as well. I'd really appreciate it. As always, guys, thank you very much for watching.